We're
Eventually,
live at last.
we are live. Yeah, yeah, it's a thing.
We just wanted to see who the people hanging on, making sure they really wanted to learn this afternoon.
Did you remember to take the garbage out?
I did not, but Katie did. So
Okay. So I hear your garbage truck back there.
perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, speaking of taking out the garbage, we're here to answer your questions. So for I don't know why anybody keeps coming back to these things. Yeah, super sorry for us being late, but this is the Traction Lab office hours, our weekly chance to hang out with all of you guys, answer whatever startup questions that you have. Apologies for being a bit late at the start here, so I know that's probably going to cause a lot of you to kind of trickle in. That we had I had some technical difficulties with some new equipment, and it was quite inopportune. But here we are. And also, Cameron and I are both a bit under the weather. I am a little bit higher on the upswing, so I'm going to try to carry it through here. But we may not be operating at 100%. But we're still here for you. If you've got a question about startups, anything from idea to product market fit, throw that down into the chat, or I guess if you're on your desktop, it's probably over there. But drop that into the chat, and we will, we'll take that question. Otherwise, we do have questions that were submitted in advance. You can always submit your questions in advance at jdm.bio. Click the calendar button. There's a link that you can use, a little Google form, a little bit more breathing room than you can get with the 2 thumbs and a YouTube or LinkedIn comment. So that's that. We have 3 questions that were submitted in advance this week. So thank you for those of you who did submit those questions. I'm super excited to start tackling them. Cameron, how are you this Friday, other than a bit sick?
I'm just hanging in there. So I mustered up the courage to get on here and bring what energy I do have. So I didn't want to leave all the fans hanging. So no, appreciate that. And I
Well,
mean, my one fan, JDM. So I don't want to leave him hanging. And then
I'm
one of
not here
the
by myself. I appreciate it. That's good.
so.
This is good.
But
Um,
nonetheless, yeah, we got a few questions to dive into. Always love the live ones if they're out there, but nonetheless, hope to tackle whatever you guys are working through. So
Well, awesome. I mean, today's Friday when we're live, and which means tomorrow a new episode of the Traction Lab podcast drops. I'm excited about that. This one is all about scope creep. I was going to, so Cameron, you'll appreciate this. I was when I was doing the post production, I was going to call it the one where we got creepy, because I thought that was funny to me. And but then I was like, no, the clever titles don't do well for us for some reason. Our audience doesn't like clever titles, and so now it's the title of the episode is scope creep, which I think should be a little bit more on point. But yeah, so that was a fun episode to record. So pretty excited to kind of dive back into that. Once again, my monitor just shuts down, so that's brilliant. I can't see a fucking thing. But we'll go ahead and take a question.
you need me to do the questions?
No, it because it literally shut it off, so it's now on this monitor here. It's just some fucking bullshit with DisplayLink on Mac, that the DisplayLink thing like literally just keeps fucking crashing. It tells me that the reason that it says my hard disk is low, but I have like 6 gigabytes of free space, and if I need 6 gigabytes to run a fucking monitor, then that sounds like a you problem and not a me problem, especially since it's not actually using any of that space. But there we go, popping that thing back on. It just every once in a while just disconnects, and so I'm gonna have to have some words with some people. But all right, we've vamped long enough after being late here. So 5 minutes in, we will just dive in with our first question. We're just going to take these in order. This is a B2B SaaS for arborists and tree care companies doing residential work. That's pretty cool. Like that. They have a 215,000 ARR with their tree service management software. That's a mouthful. 98 companies are using us. Here's what keeps me up at night. Arborists are getting older and retiring, and young people aren't going into the trades at the same rate. Our customer base's average age is probably 52. When I look 10 years out, I'm not really sure this industry will even exist at current scale. Do we ride this demographic wave as long as we can, or start thinking about pivoting to adjacent trades like landscaping before our market literally dies of old age? That sounds dark, but I'm being serious. We had 3 customers retire and close their businesses this year. They loved our product. They just stopped working. Okay. Well, I guess my question is then, who's taking care of the trees?
Right. Well, the trees are getting older too, so which you need, therefore they're going to be dying, or be needing to be taken down. So
yeah, I mean, but that, I guess my question is, what are the actual market dynamics itself?
Right.
You know, are we actually seeing fewer of these? Like, I mean, who's gonna cut the trees? Is it coming down to a small number of larger companies, or what? I don't really get what the challenge is here.
I think it's interesting that was kind of the take that this founder was seeing. Whereas if it's actually, I mean, the trees are going to need to be taken care of going forward, whether they're new fresh trees or they're trees that need to be taken out to then plant new trees. So you can't just go up there and do it yourself. So when you are looking at that, is there consolidation in the market, and like who's consolidating, and does that exacerbate the problem further of them trying to manage more projects in more areas, is one thought. And then additionally are there a new set of newer companies coming into the industry that, yes, maybe the labor isn't as tech forward, but maybe some of the founders are, because are maybe younger and they're more used to technology, and that might be an area where they want to have some more of this technical solution to help them be more efficient, or whatever the value prop they're providing. So again, I would have to go back through and see exactly what problem you're solving for, but as we think about it is, I think it actually could speak to more opportunity in the future if there's a change in the way that they're looking at. Dr. Seuss says the Lorax takes trees. Fair enough. I like it.
I mean, like it's good to know, because I was, that was what I was wondering. So perhaps the Lorax is taking care of all of that, and kudos to the Lorax. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess we can answer this more generally. So if your market is actually dying, if that is the concern that we have here, and if that's a real concern, then the question of, like, do we ride the demographic wave as long as we can, or start thinking about pivoting? I mean, I think the answer is both, right? So you can continue to push forward and capture more of this market share and do all of that, but also you should probably start looking for how you're going to expand. And I guess, like, I'm kind of curious what the long-term play was here anyway. Like, was there a large enough market here for you to be originally interested when you're just targeting arborists, or was your plan always to increase the scope or scale of your offerings there? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about that, I guess. Yeah, I keep getting these interesting. There's something with the lighting in here today. I'm at a slightly different angle than I normally am, and so it keeps shining on my hair and, like, giving me gray. Well, it looks like gray in my screen. I don't know if you guys can see there. It keeps giving me gray hair, and, like, you can see my hair's not gray, but I keep, like, looking at a salt and pepper version of JDM, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that, if I'm being honest. And there the monitor goes, cutting out again. It's brilliant.
Very good.
Well, I'll go ahead and fix that. Cameron, do you have anything more on this particular question? Like, I know we didn't really answer it, which I do feel kind of bad about.
Well, let's go back to, do we ride this demographic wave as long as we can, or start thinking about pivoting to adjacent trades? Yeah, I'm just not, like, I guess maybe the question to go back to, or for the thought is, like, they're not thinking as much about the theory of their startup. They're just kind of like, oh, well, I'm seeing this, like, versus truly understanding what is the core essence of the problem, and is that problem also in the landscaping industry and these other adjacent markets, or is that also what you're going to see as this kind of dying industry? I think in general, like those industries will continue to exist, right? Like trees need to be taken care of, and you can't just go and do that yourself. So I think it's like, how do you continue to penetrate that market and grow within it, but then also see, yeah, is there adjacent opportunities? Like that should have been on the future roadmap of the theory of your startup growing. Like I don't think just purely the arborist industry would have been large enough anyways if you were trying to build a highly scalable venture backable company. So
yeah, that was sort of my gut as well. And I was trying to articulate there, but yeah. All right. Well, I'm just going to be at an awkward angle for a second while I take a look at our next question. I think DisplayLink crashed again, and I'm going to have to restart it. But all right. So this is B2B SaaS for casting directors for indie films, commercials, and local theaters. That's a niche. All right. They're at the unpaid pilot stage, they say, and they say casting directors in our pilots love the audition management talent database features, but the issue is that casting is extremely project-based. So they're super busy during a production, then have zero work for months. They don't want to pay a monthly subscription when they're between projects, but we can't survive on per project pricing because the projects are so inconsistent. One casting director might do 8 projects a year, another might do 2. How do we do predictable revenue when our customers' work is completely unpredictable? 9 casting directors in pilots, usage patterns are all over the place. Some months everyone's active, some months it's dead, makes financial planning impossible. Well, okay, so like the first thing that I want to mention is that you're looking at this from a sample size of 9, and so that's really too small to really draw any firm conclusions from it. And so I do want to like recommend a little bit of caution, when it comes to that. You don't want to overinterpret the data that you have. So that's the first thing. And then there might be certain kinds of customers who are more consistent, like those who are casting companies that actually just do a lot of casting. And so you might have a customer segment issue thing there. The other thing that I want to mention is that there's lots of different ways to do pricing. And so you're going to see really inconsistent revenue if you do a non-subscription based pricing model with only 9 customers. But if you 10x that or 100x that, let's say you have hundreds of these companies that you're working with, or these casting directors that you're working with, then that revenue will sort of average out into something that's more quote unquote consistent with another pricing model. And so one that comes to mind is usage pricing. And so you could charge per project, like that is one way that you could do it, but you could also do it based on how many applicants that they're taking in, or how many headshots that they're running through the system, or something like that, where you can just do a completely different pricing model. You could also do an annual pricing. So if they're going to have a certain number of projects throughout the year that they're anticipating, then maybe that there's an annual fee, and you can tier that based on the number of projects or something like that. So I think there's a lot of different ways to approach pricing, but I think fundamentally you can't build a business on somebody's side hustle like that. So if they're doing, if they're really only going to do 2 projects a year, then they're probably not a customer base on which you can actually build a sustainable company, because they're just not doing enough work. Like they don't experience the problem with enough frequency to give you the kind of revenue that you wanted. So that even if you got a large number of them doing 2 projects a year, maybe if decent revenue if you were able to charge per project, but maybe not as well. That's kind of that. I have some more to say, but I want to kick it to you, Cameron, first before I ramble.
No, I liked where you're heading. I think the area I would focus on is narrowing in on who the specific casting directors are and how their pain points are different. So I imagine the casting director that's managing 8 projects a year versus 2 is quite significant. It's 4 times the amount of activation that they have to do. And so I'm guessing, again, this is all assumptions, but would be they have a greater need or some sort of severity compared to those that are managing just 2 projects, because the timeline in between them, or the amount of work that goes into managing 8 versus 2. And so I think when you're for me, it always kind of comes back to, this is the major risk of the unpaid pilot, is we don't know between those 2 kind of although they are casting directors, they might be very different kind of customers in the way that they're looking at this potential solution, because we haven't actually put the formal offer of what they're paying for.
Yeah.
And so when we do that, we're kind of kicking that can down the road, versus we put that offer in front of them and we see that it's casting directors that manage 8 to 10 projects a year. Well, that is pretty close to a monthly subscription. There's only 2 months that they're not really managing, in a way, a project. Some of them might overlap, I recognize, but that might make more sense to them. And so you're not having to shift your whole business model, because it does align more with actual who your core customer is. And then maybe there's a lighter weight offering down the line, but your early adopters really these more casting directors that manage more projects. So that's my initial thought, was just tying in. We need to narrow down who that specific customer is, even amongst the ones that you're already bringing in. And that's the risk of the unpaid pilot, is we don't really know what that will lead to.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there. That was one of the places that I was going to go to, right? Is that we can, overread the data based on this sample of 9, but also we can overread it, not just based on the sample size, but because we're still just making a series of assumptions. And so we actually don't know if, I think based on at least what was listed in your question, we don't know if the problem with getting somebody who does 3, 4 projects a year to pay a monthly subscription is actually because of the infrequency or because of the value, because they're not even having to pay for it to use it right now. And so they'll use it for free, but they won't use it for money. And you want to make the assumption that that's because of the frequency of the projects. And I just don't think we actually know that that's true. Based on this. And one little anecdote that I'll throw in there, or I guess more of an analogy maybe, but is I don't know. I know, Cameron, you're not a big podcast guy, but I'm a big podcast guy, and so
we level it out. So we're like a
podcasts,
medium podcast crew.
That's well, probably our average is probably still above, because I listen to so many podcasts. I'm really skewing it. But one of the big campaigns across a lot of very diverse podcasts that I listen to is Rocket Money. Rocket Money is doing ads, everywhere, and their whole premise is around canceling unwanted subscriptions, right? And because the reason a service like that can thrive really well is because we all have subscriptions that we pay for that we don't use every month. And so unless you're charging a large amount of money, like the idea that because they're using it like 8 to 10, I agree with you, Cameron, like that's pretty close to like 12 months, like fine. But like, even if it's 5 or 6, they're using it every other month, like not paying for it every month, that doesn't actually land well with me as a legitimate reason. And so I'm thinking that it's actually a question of values. They're not getting sufficient value to actually out of the thing. And that might be true, that might not be true, but we won't know until we put an offer in front of them. So maybe convert some of these to paid pilots, have them pay for the particular project, just see if they're even willing to pay money to use it, not on a subscription. Now that you've taken the subscription off the table, we're able to tell if it was because of the frequency of payment. So in other words, the how question, like what the pricing model is versus the value itself. Because if they're willing to pay for it per project, then that's actually just based on a frequency question. And that's like, okay, how can we work that in the business model? And that's a whole separate question. But I think you're overreading the data here. I think this is actually underdetermined by the data that we have. So
Awesome.
All right. We've got one more question that was submitted live, it was submitted in advance, but we do prioritize the live questions. If you've got a question on anything startup related from idea to product market fit, you can throw that down to the chat. We started really late today, and so I think a lot of our friends are probably not here. I know some of you are there. I've seen you scroll on through, and so if you've got a question or something you want to talk about, or even just an opinion that you have that you want to share, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. It doesn't have to be a question in the strictest sense. All right, our final question here from submitted in advance anyway is a marketplace for independent music teachers giving lessons from home studios. Independent music teachers giving lessons from their home studios. Okay, so another one of these like small niche market things. It's not necessarily bad. They're live, but they're pre-revenue. And they said, okay, so we built this marketplace to connect music teachers with students. Teachers create profiles, list their rates and availability. Students can book and pay through our platform. Seems straightforward. What we didn't, and it just cut out. That was perfect timing for it to cut out there. What we didn't anticipate, music teachers hate online booking. They want to talk to parents first, assess if the kid is serious, make sure it's a good fit personality-wise. They keep telling us music lessons are a relationship, not a commodity. But parents want the convenience of just clicking and booking. We're stuck between what teachers want, phone calls and personal connection, what parents want, book it like a haircut appointment. This feels unsolvable, question mark. We have 140 teachers signed up. Only 30 will actually accept online bookings without a phone screening first. Parents get frustrated and go elsewhere. Maybe we built for the wrong side of the marketplace. Cameron, I'm going to fix my tech here again, but why don't you take a quick stab?
I don't know that they built for the wrong side of the marketplace. Outside of they built a marketplace that doesn't necessarily want to connect with one another. And so when we're thinking about like this offering, we often talk about liquidity is the term we use, and that's how do you facilitate transactions on the marketplace and on the platform, because that's the ultimate goal. Otherwise, then the solution doesn't drive the core value. And so when we're thinking about these teachers wanting to have this kind of higher touch conversation, and then the parents just want to be able to click and be done. Those are opposite things. And so if there's a different way to do that on the marketplace, but overall you're, yes, at the end of the day, they want to connect with one another, but they want to connect with one another in a different fashion. So I don't know that it's unsolvable, but is there a set of teachers that do just want people to go in and book, and who are those people versus having all teachers, on there that want to have these calls? So you got to have the right set of people on the platform that want to connect with each other in the way that they want to be connected. So that's kind of my first take on it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It comes down to the question of liquidity. We've talked about marketplace liquidity lots and lots of times before, so really no surprise there that we're sort of back at that. And there's a couple of things that I do want to call out though, right? Is that like if you just have, like, again, as Cameron, you were mentioning, we have two sides of the marketplace that fundamentally don't want to do business together, and so you don't have a marketplace. And so we actually need to find, are there teachers out there who are looking to either are there teachers who are out there who are looking to have that instant booking, right? Or are there parents out there who don't or who are okay not doing instant booking? And if you can't find where those two things overlap, this is just fundamentally not viable. But one other thing that I wanted to say was that I wonder if we are kind of over reading this a little bit. So is there another is it a fundamental value misalignment, which it very well could be, or is it that the parents are that what the parents are looking for isn't necessarily the instant booking for their child, but an instant course of action? They don't want to go to a website and make a phone call. So is there a way that you can either have the parents fill out a form or do something else that would indicate their seriousness at the time of booking? So in order to book, they have to fill this thing out. Or alternatively, can the thing that they book be a consultation where it's the parent and the child and the music teacher, or something like that, so that you're finding some type of compromise middle ground? So that would be a suggestion that I would have. But I want to take us back to what we're just often talking about here, is that we're again doing all of this completely for free. And why are we doing that to ourselves? So what we don't even know yet that these two sides of the market are even willing to pay for something, because we're pre-revenue. And so we're just continuing to stack on these assumptions. So whatever it is that you do, this is not a question that I want you to solve through the platform? This is a question I want you to solve outside the platform, before you have a platform, by getting evidence of buying behavior from 2 customers who actually want a transaction to complete. So if but what it sounds like I'm hearing is that what music teachers want is that they want more phone calls. And it sounds like what parents want is more music lessons. And so some customer discovery will find out if there's an overlap there. And then as you engage in that customer discovery, then find the quickest possible way to test whether or not you can actually get one or both sides to pay for that value that they're getting. Because I honestly don't care if you solve this problem if you're still not collecting any revenue from it.
Mm-hmm.
So cheers.
There you go.
There we go. All right. Well, as my monitor cuts out yet again, I'm gonna murder someone. Yeah. If any of you out there I don't normally use DisplayLink for external monitors. I normally just use like the native external display through HDMI. And so if any of you out there have experience with Mac just completely fucking you over with DisplayLink and how to fix this problem from it just crashing every few minutes, let me know. I'd love to figure out how to solve this thing. Otherwise, this monitor is going back because I can't use DisplayLink. It's just obviously not going to work. Fun. Well, with that, that was all of the questions we had submitted in advance. So thank you guys for submitting those questions in advance. We'll vamp for a minute as we always do. For those of you who just want to hang out with us a little bit longer, maybe a question, maybe a comment, I'll give you an opportunity to throw that into the chat. Otherwise, we will wrap a little early this Friday. Let Cameron take a nap or something.
That would be nice.
Let's see. Yeah, that'd be nice, right? Good.
Good.
Oh, how that happened? All right. Well, okay.
Well, I think we've sufficiently filibustered this time.
We have. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Apologies for starting a little bit late today, and for any low energy that we might be having as both of us recover from our independent illnesses. Very fun. Cameron, as always, thanks for hopping on, even when you're a bit under the weather. Always great to hang out for a few minutes and answer some startup questions and provide some value to those of you out there who join live. Always fun to hang out. Come back again, and if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to join us live every Friday, noon Pacific time on LinkedIn and YouTube, or you can submit a question in advanced.bio and we'll do our best to answer it. We have a pretty good track record of answering basically every question that comes in, even ones we don't know what to do with. We'll make something up. It's totally fine. So once again, thanks for that. Thanks, Cameron. And
awesome.
I guess that's
it. Thank you all, and have a good 3-day weekend, or a good weekend if you have Monday off. But we'll see you next time. So we'll see you next Friday, and thanks everyone for hopping on in.